The rain didn't just fall, it attacked the city like an army of arrows. Puddles spread across the sidewalks, neon lights reflected in ripples, and the sound of thunder drowned out the late-night traffic. People ran for cover, umbrellas snapping in the wind. Inside La Belle Lumiere, however, everything was golden. Crystal chandeliers glowed, laughter filled the air, and the rich feasted as if the storm outside didn't exist. At a corner table sat Ethan Carter, a billionaire whose name carried weight across boardrooms and headlines. Sharp jawline, tailored suit, calm eyes, he looked like a man who had conquered the world. But as he sipped his wine, a familiar emptiness stirred. The food was delicious, the atmosphere perfect, yet none of it touched him. His life was an empire built on victories, but his heart was a fortress, silent, cold, and alone. When Ethan finally rose to leave, his driver rushed forward with an umbrella. But just as he stepped outside, he froze. Beyond the warm glow of the restaurant, just past the awning where the rain hit hardest, two figures lay huddled on the ground. An elderly couple. The man's arms were wrapped around his wife, trying to shield her fragile body from the storm. Her silver hair was plastered to her pale face, her body limp in his arms. Ethan's breath caught. The world blurred around him. For a moment, he wasn't the billionaire anymore. He was a boy again, standing in the rain with his mother, both of them hungry, waiting outside a locked grocery store, hoping for kindness that never came. "Sir, should I call security?" his driver asked nervously. But Ethan didn't answer. He dropped the umbrella and hurried to the couple, kneeling on the wet pavement. The cold water seeped into his expensive suit, but he didn't care. He touched the woman's hand. It was icy. The old man lifted his head weakly, lips trembling. "Please, help my wife. She hasn't eaten in days." Ethan's throat tightened. He didn't think. He acted. Carefully, he lifted the frail woman into his arms, shocked at how weightless she was. "Get the car, now." The driver hesitated, but Ethan's glare silenced him. Together they rushed to the car. The old man stumbled in behind them, murmuring apologies over and over. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trouble you. We just couldn't." Ethan clenched his jaw. His chest ached with guilt. Trouble? This wasn't trouble. This was humanity. At the hospital, doctors rushed the woman, Margaret, into the emergency room. Her husband, Harold, collapsed into a chair, soaked and shivering. Ethan stood beside him, his own clothes dripping, ignoring the stares of nurses. His phone buzzed with messages from executives, but for once, business didn't matter. Hours crawled by. Ethan stared at the ER doors, helpless in a way he hadn't felt since childhood. Finally, the doctor emerged. "They'll survive," he said gently, "but they're malnourished and weak. If you hadn't brought them in tonight, it might have been too late." Relief washed over Ethan, but also a deep, unshakable guilt. He had walked past suffering 1,000 times before. Tonight, he had stopped. But why only now? He looked at Harold, whose eyes brimmed with tears as he whispered his wife's name. And for the first time in decades, Ethan Carter felt something he had long forgotten: compassion. He wasn't sure why, maybe because he couldn't stop thinking about the couple. He found Harold sitting by Margaret's bed, holding her hand. She looked frail but stronger than the night before. "You came back," Harold said softly, surprise flickering in his tired eyes. "I wanted to see how she's doing," Ethan replied, pulling up a chair. Over the next days, Ethan kept visiting. He brought warm meals, fresh clothes, and even flowers for Margaret. Slowly, the couple opened up to him. Harold told him about the bookstore he once owned. A cozy little place filled with old books, children's stories, and the smell of paper and ink. "I used to read to the kids who came in after school," Harold said, his voice trembling with memory. "That store was my life. But times changed. Big chains opened nearby, Online sales took over. I couldn't keep up. I lost it all. Ethan listened silently, guilt gnawing at him. He had built empires by crushing small competitors, men like Harold. How many bookstores had his investments helped destroy? Margaret spoke too, her voice weak but warm. I loved our little garden. Roses, lilies, tulips. They were my pride. I always believed that if you nurture something, it will bloom. But when we lost the house, I lost my garden. Her eyes glistened with tears. Ethan found himself swallowing hard. He too had once believed in nurturing things. But his gardens were companies, investments. He had watered profit, not people. One evening, Harold looked at him and said, I used to believe kindness still existed. But the world, it made me doubt, until you came. The words cut deep. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He stared at the city lights outside his penthouse, realizing how hollow they seemed. All his towers, his companies, his billions, what had they built inside him? Nothing but walls. But maybe it wasn't too late. Weeks passed. Margaret's strength returned. Harold walked more steadily, and one morning, Ethan picked them up in his car without explanation. The car stopped outside a small, freshly painted shop on a lively street. A wooden sign above the door read, Harold's Books and Story. Harold's jaw dropped. Margaret gasped, covering her mouth. This is yours, Ethan said, handing Harold the keys. Fully stocked, rent-free. It's not just a bookstore, it's a community space. For children, for families, for anyone who needs stories. Tears streamed down Harold's face. I don't know what to say. Say nothing, Ethan said softly. Just live. Inside, the shop smelled of fresh books and wood polish. Rows of shelves lined the walls. A small reading corner with soft chairs and bright cushions waited for children. In the back, a framed plaque read, Dedicated to Harold and Margaret, proof that kindness can change the world. Word spread quickly. Families flocked to the store. Children sat cross-legged as Harold read them fairy tales. Margaret arranged flowers in the window, her smile radiant. The store buzzed with laughter, warmth, and life. And Ethan, he came often, not as the billionaire but as a friend. He carried boxes, shared stories, even read aloud to children once. Awkward at first, but unforgettable. The man who once measured success in profit, now measured it in smiles. The man who once dined alone in golden halls, now sat among people who saw him not as a billionaire, but as human. One evening, as Ethan locked the shop door with Harold, rain began to fall again. Ethan looked up at the stormy sky and smiled. That first storm had nearly taken 2 lives, but it had given him back his own. The millionaire who once believed wealth was everything, finally discovered the greatest treasure of all, compassion.